Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today we have a new set of crazy stories about crazy people for you to enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Play me against competitors and take advantage of goodwill? I will turn your little scheme back on you. This happened a few years back. I work as a manager for a packaging company, and we manufacture specific items which are branded to the customer's requirements. My colleague had been dealing with a customer who we'll call A-Hat, A-H. With most customers, we work on the basis of trust, and if someone places an order which is branded for them, they will usually have it collected and pay for it once they're informed it's ready. Now, A-H likes to play us against our competitors and has managed to convince us to produce a specific item for him, only to disappear for a while and collect it much later. Our competitors were basically undercutting our price by a tiny margin, literally just about 1.5%, and A-H would go ahead and place an exact order with them, and not bother informing us at all. We would thus end up holding stock for him much longer and messing with the company's cash flow. This happened on more than a few occasions, and at this point the management was only taking orders because business was generally quite slow. One fine day, A-H comes in with an order for one size of his items. He sells items in different sizes, and each size requires completely different packaging. Let's call this item A. My colleague takes the order and decides to inform production to start producing. It so happens that a whole week later, when the order is almost 80% complete, A-H calls in and gets me on the phone rather than my colleague. The conversation goes like this. A-H: "Hello, OP, can I get your colleague?" Me: "Colleague's not around, can I help?" "What's the price for item B?" I realized at this point that this guy is about to start with his bullcrap, and I quickly formulate a plan. Sure, let me calculate it. It'll be amount X, basically about 10% lower than our cost price, but I'll need a minimum order of Y pieces, basically about 5 times our minimum order, and you'll need to place a 50% deposit. "Okay, brilliant. Cancel my order for item A and instead put it in for item B. I'll need item B in 2 days. "You got it, sir. Transfer the deposit amount into our account. Item B will be ready in 24 hours if we receive the money in the next hour." He goes ahead and transfers the amount, not believing his luck on securing such a good price. Now, this amount basically covered double the stock of size A, which we had produced 80% of. At this point, I decided I'd had enough of this guy's bullcrap. I sent an email out to a couple of our competitors who had the machinery to make the same product, informing them that A-H had placed this order with me for item B, and I'm quite sure he would have placed with them as well. It turned out that he had indeed placed the orders much earlier and canceled it as soon as he spoke to me. The competitors also revealed that he'd placed an order for item A with one of them and that he wanted it within an unreasonably short period of time. I informed them of exactly what I did and asked them to get a huge deposit out of him before going ahead to the next action. We also all agreed to immediately stop production on all his orders. 2 days roll by and A-H calls for the goods. I ignore his calls, and so do both of my competitors. At this point, he is crapping it, as he needs to package goods with a very short shelf life and get them out to market before they go rancid. He turns up at my competitor's workplace, and my competitor calls me to come over. We basically told him to forget about getting his current produce to market, as none of the packaging was ready. He ranted for a while before we mentioned our new terms of business. Prices hiked by a fair margin and upfront payment for all future orders at the point the order was placed. He had no choice but to agree. To further screw him, I later emailed majority of the industry players informing them of his tactics and to not accept orders without payment. This managed to put him in his place, and I have had no further trouble. Hell, this is pro purely because business competitors put aside the money to screw one a-hole together. Good on all of you. And our next story. Car dealer shop manager should have honored warranty. The setup. About 25 years ago, I bought a car and also made the idiotic mistake of buying the extended warranty. The warranty was touted as a bumper-to-bumper warranty that included everything that might break. About 10 months into owning the car, it started exhibiting ignition system issues. I took it in and it was the coil. They replaced it at no charge and everything was fine. 3 months later, I had the same issue. Took the car back to the shop where I'd purchased the car and told the manager what was happening, He said he'd check it out and asked me to sign a shop order just like last time. I get back to the shop a few hours later, and the manager says it was the coil again and that I owed him $158 for the part and labor. I asked him about the extended bumper-to-bumper warranty, and his exact words were, "A coil is a standard maintenance part, and the car is over a year old." Now, I'd owned several cars and had never had a coil go out on a single one of them. I asked him about the fact he'd replaced that same part just a few months ago and was told it had a 30-day warranty and it was no longer covered. I then asked to see the shop order I signed, and all I'd agreed to was the $25 diagnostic fee. I told him to put the old part back in, and I wasn't paying squat except the diagnostic fee, to which I'd agreed. When I pulled my credit card out to pay, he demanded the payment in cash. I was getting paid tomorrow and was poor back then, so I didn't have the $25 in cash at that moment. I called a friend, and he brought me the cash. I got in my car with the manager shouting expletives at me. The car ran, but it ran really rough, but I was able to get it to an auto parts store. I bought a coil and installed it in the parking lot of the store inside of 10 minutes. The aftermarket coil cost me $12 and lasted until the car died from being driven for 7+ years. I contacted Ford after that incident, and the coil should have been covered by my warranty. They asked me if I wanted to pursue getting my $25 back and to have a genuine Ford part put in instead of my $12 aftermarket part. I told them no because the car was running fine. The opportunity. As you may know from my other post, I work in the computer industry. One of my clients is an auto dealership. Well, the shop manager moved on to bigger and better things, and a new shop manager was hired recently. Lo and behold, it was the same guy that was the Ford shop manager that tried to rip me off. I never remembered his name back then, but I know it now. We'll call him Lenny. Well, Lenny was all smiles and obviously didn't remember me from that incident many years ago. For several months, I worked on his systems in the shop, and everything has been going great. I did notice he tried to pull the same crap he pulled with me on customers, but I stopped that by going to the owner. I told the owner about my issue with him in the past, and I noticed similar arguments when I was working on the systems in their shop office where the customers would pay. The owner said he'd watched the situation, and it seems to have stopped. A few months ago, Lenny asked me if I could take a look at his home computer as there were files he couldn't access anymore. I said sure, and asked him to bring it to work. I picked his system up at work and took it home. When I turned on the system, it was obvious he'd gotten one of the ransomware Trojans. I pulled the plug on the system and pulled the hard drive. I then called Lenny and asked if he had any backups. Amazingly, he did. I picked those up at the dealership and took them home. I told him what had happened and let him know that the best possible course of action would be to reload from scratch and restore from backup, to which he agreed. I also let him know that to get everything loaded and working the way it should would run close to $400. He also agreed to that. I had him sign a work order indicating the price and the labor to be done. The revenge. I finished the reload and restore, and his computer's working flawlessly. I even installed Sophos free Home Edition security software, so he won't have that issue again. I took an invoice to the dealership, and it was a little over $450 tax and all. He took out a credit card to pay me, and I looked him right in the eye and said, "Cash only." Lenny looked a bit shocked and said, "I don't have that kind of cash at the moment, and why are you demanding cash only?" I looked him right in the eye and said, "Why did you demand cash only from a 20-something kid for a part that should have been covered under warranty?" He looked at me a bit longer, then he recognized me. "You're the effer with that escort." I just smiled and said, "When you pay me cash, you can have your computer." And then I walked away. It seems Lenny hasn't been too successful in life, and it's been several months, and I've still not received any payment for his system. I did send him a letter that he has another 90 days to pick up his system, or it'll be sold or parted out to pay his outstanding balance. The last time I was in the shop, he asked me to please accept a credit card, and I told him to get a cash advance. Now that's playing the long game. Unintentional, but still, kudos to you, sir. That was well done. And our last story. You'll call the police on me for doing my job? Okay. Quick background. I, male, work for an exterior remodeling company. When we do an install in an area, it's my job to knock on everyone's doors and schedule free estimates. I'm working a neighborhood in Maryland when your typical high-class Karen pulls up in a black Lexus and tells me this is a no-soliciting neighborhood. I tell her we have a license and show it to her. She starts screaming about how she's on the homeowners association and orders me to leave the neighborhood. Being the young professional that I am, I tell her which way I'm going and that if security wants to talk to me, they can find me down that way. She loses it, starts calling me names, and follows me on my path through the neighborhood. Forget security. I'm calling the police. Great. I'm going down this way, I say. Police pull up, talk to me, check my license, slap Karen with a fine for disturbing the peace. I set 4 appointments and made over $1,000 that day. In other news, a security guard pulled up later that day and asked what I was up to. I told him I was from the fire department, and he said to have a nice day. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.